So, Kpop Demon Hunters, still obsessed with it. I watched it like 8 times, and I made a Saja Boys boss sheet. I wanted to make a PC guide on if you actually wanted to play the Huntrix girls as your own kind of player character. So we're starting off with Zoey, and I think the class that you should go with Zoey to start out with is Soul Knife Rogue. She uses daggers, and she kind of apparates the daggers via the Honmun, and so I thought Soul Knife Rogue really kind of helped out with that. And actually, this specific Soul Knife class is one of my favorites I have built. Essentially, we're going to be taking the stance of trying to get as close to Zoey's and the Huntrix girls' characters as possible, while also checking it. I'm not really a min-maxer, but this specific build is a little min-maxy. So with the Soul Knife Rogue, skill proficiencies, I would go with acrobatics, sleight of hand, stealth, and investigation. I just chucked investigation in there because of Zoey's kind of like finding lyricism and things. I don't know. Stealth because they have some stealthy parts. Sleight of hand for the daggers, and acrobatics because we see Zoey doing all types of acrobatic stuff while she's fighting. Background, you're a K-pop star, so I figured you would get +2 to Dex and +1 to Charisma, and your proficiency would be performance, and then whatever musical instrument, it could just be your voice, kind of whatever musical instrument you decide to choose. Species would be human. So for ASIs, I went +1. Oh, it should be +2 to Dex, +1 to Con. With humans, you get kind of like 2 feats. So I went skillful, and you gain proficiency with medicine. Boom. And then versatile. So a feat of your choice, and I went with the skilled feat for Arcana, intimidation, and persuasion. With intimidation, because Zoey is in the beginning, she's the Maknae, but when she kind of raps, she goes pretty hard. So thus the intimidation. Now, medicine, I just sort of chucked in there as kind of a joke because she's the one that recommends the faulty doctor, spoilers, the faulty doctor to roommates, so you don't have to put medicine, but that's what I put in there. Really, with this build, it's more of what skills don't you want to have versus the skills that you will have. So yeah. Okay, stats. I didn't put a point buy array system in this. I just put a tier list. So I think you should prioritize Dex and Charisma first, because you're a K-pop star. Con, because, well, health is always good, and you gotta perform like they're eating like what 10 gajillion calories at the beginning of the movie because the routines are tough. You gotta have a lot of con. I put intelligence, wisdom, and strength. I just thought, being kind of the youngest, her wisdom seemed a little bit on the lower end. So for this rogue build, we're not really going the perception route. We're kind of going a more intelligence and charisma route. Strength because I don't think Zoey was particularly strong. So for level 1, level 2, you get expertise in rogue. So I went with acrobatics and intimidation. You get sneak attack, which is you get that bonus damage. Thieves Can't can be kind of like a sister language if you want, or it can kind of be your own like rap lingo or however you want to do the Thieves Can't. And then cunning action allows you to bonus action dash, disengage, and so you kind of get the extra mobility and zip around the walls and stuff like Zoey does in the movie. At level 3, we finally get our subclass of the Soul Knife Rogue, and it's that psi bolstered knack for the psionic power that this class is really built around. And so essentially you get an extra, I think it's like a D6 or a D8, that for skills that you have proficiency with, you can expend a charge of this psionic knack to, if you fail a check with that skill proficiency, roll a D8 or a D6. It increases with your level, essentially giving yourself a bardic. And so I think that is awesome. And I think that's why this class really goes well with having a lot of skill proficiencies, so that you can use that on as many skills as possible. Psychic Whisper is just a nice trait. You can kind of talk people psychonetically. And then the Psychic Blades would be her daggers. Now with Psychic Blades, if you don't know, it kind of generates from your character and does psychic damage. However, you can't really get you can't really get bonuses. So I would chat with your DM to ask. So my DM was, if I say got a +1 dagger or something, it would just apply to my side daggers. It wouldn't be like I was getting magical items. It would just be that I was getting upgrades to my psionic weapons, because that's the whole point of the class, is they have those cool daggers that you get to throw around. Rogues levels 4 through 8. So we got, a couple ability score improvements, still kind of going off on like prioritizing the stats I said before. You get uncanny dodge, to kind of like being able to weave out of the way of whatever demons are sort of trying to claw at you. And then evasion, for any giant beams of fire that you might want to dodge. Maybe Zoey would have fared a little bit better than a certain somebody. And so evasion is always great. Level 9, we get more stuff with the soul blades, and so you get homing strikes. So if you miss an attack with your psionic blade, you can actually use one of your points to, I think, roll a dice and like actually make a hit instead of miss. And then psychic teleportation is really cool, where you can throw your blade, I think up to 120 feet, and then you can actually teleport to where your blade landed. So I think those abilities are really, really cool. With rogues 10 through 12, you get more ability score improvement, and you get reliable talent, which by 11th level, you refine your chosen skills until they approach perfection. Whenever you make an ability check that lets you add proficiency bonus, you can treat a d20 roll of 9 or lower as a 10, which is big. Or you can take a little trip down to multiclassing in Lore Bard. You already have a lot of charisma because you're a K-pop singer, and you kind of get the home moon bit, and you get more skill proficiencies. You get another skill proficiency, you get expertise in a skill proficiency that you have, 2 expertise, pardon, and then jack of all trades, where skills that you're actually not proficient in, you get to take, you cut your proficiency modifier in half, and you can apply that to skills and making skill checks with skills you're not proficient in. So once again, crazy on the skill proficiencies. That's why I love this type of build so much. Of course, Bardic Inspo. We love Bardic Inspiration, chucking out D6s or D8s. I think with the amount of levels you get with this multi-class, depending on how far your campaign goes, a D6 to your friends and allies when you need it. It's a wonderful thing. You get 3, when you get to Lore Bard at level 3, you get 3 extra proficiencies. So once again, it's really about what skill proficiencies don't you want to have? And then you get a good old use of cutting words, where you get to use your Bardic Inspiration die to go ahead as a reaction, cut away, and possibly save an ally. Cutting words is coming clutch, and you could throw funny insults and maybe a little bit of a diss track. One which was really aggressive for K-pop, but we love Takedown. Takedown was a really good song. So this is the first. I'm working on Mira and Rumi. I think we're gonna go Mira and then Rumi next on these. Let me know what you think of this. Let me know if you think that you should build Zoey differently. Maybe she's not a rogue. Maybe she's just pure bard. I personally think that this sort of build, just because on alone, the daggers, I think kind of really fits her. And you get the nice sneak attack damage, and you get to be crazy with the skill proficiencies. And it's always fun to be kind of crazy with skill proficiencies. I just like rogues. Rogues are cool. Anyway, that's all I got.